This is a series of films that tells the history of contemporary fashion photography as seen through the eyes of models. So when you're modelling, are you aware that a great picture is being taken? Do you sense that?
I do. Not always, but you definitely get to a point where you're like, okay, good, this is the lane, like we're in the right groove here. You know, that can sometimes take hours or days, but then, you know, you kind of get to where everyone's kind of, right, this is it, you know, this is definitely the right direction, and yeah, you can feel it. I mean, for me, it's always about the sort of connection between the photographer and the model that's the most crucial thing. You know, and obviously feeling like what you're wearing is really sort of you, and you can work it and it becomes you. You know, to me, I always feel that I always like to ask the photographer if it's not obvious, you know, well, who am I today? What are my feelings? Right. You know, what kind of girl am I? What am I doing? So you can really kind of become that person and move as she would. And
does your character, if you want, come from the clothes you wear?
Sometimes, but not always. You know, sometimes it could be the absolute opposite.
Right.
You know, you could be dressed very straight, but then inside you could be thinking something very different.
Right.
That's how I like to play things anyway, because then you get things not so obvious.
And so when you're in a session and you're having a photograph taken, where do you get your feedback from? Where are you sensing? Because you're not seeing the image. I mean, you're the only person in the room who isn't seeing the image normally, and certainly nowadays. And so everybody else is seeing what you look like, but you're imagining what you look like.
Yeah.
So how do you pick up on the idea that, you know, you're looking good? I mean, you know, we're looking in the way that you and the photographer and everybody else wants you to look.
It's interesting because for me, it's not about how I look; it's about how I feel.
Right.
So if I'm feeling it, you know, if I feel it inside me, and I'm gauging reaction, you know, sort of, as long as I'm feeling it and connecting with you or whoever's in front of me, that's all that really matters to me.
Right. I mean, the way you're answering the question, and I didn't want to jump into this too early in the interview, but you're answering it as an actress would answer it.
Right.
In my how I'm, because you're saying you feel it rather than you see it, which might be the case, and we'll see throughout the series of model interviews. But the way it reminds me of how I've heard actresses speak in the past, where they say, actually, I don't want to see myself.
Yeah, I never look at the image, ever.
Right. Right.
Even now, when it's all on monitors, you know, I've noticed that other girls might say, oh, you know, well, they'll jump straight behind and go and look how they're looking and their legs and this and that. That's just, I've never been that person. You know, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong, for me, it's just about, it is a performance. It's always been a performance for me.
Right. I've noticed I photograph some people, and it's quite a tricky thing. Do you show them what, you know, do I put the monitor so they can see them?
Yeah.
But then you tend to get that eye line, which is always slightly off camera.
It's so off-putting. It's so much better just to kind of feel it. I don't know if I'm explaining myself very right, but, you know, different photographers work differently, but for me, the ones that allow you to really express and explore, I feel always get the better images of me.
Okay, right, so let's look at our first picture.
Oh, pop, yay.
So, tell me pragmatically, we can see you, but what were you seeing?
What was I seeing? Again, I don't know that I was seeing, it was more a feeling, you know, and I knew that this was the first issue of Pop, and it was with Katie, who I'd worked with, you know, I mean, for a long time before this. So I knew how much it meant to her. And honestly, with her, it's always so much about character. And, you know, specifically this cover, it was about, okay, who's the next wave of, you know, image makers. So there was me, Luella, Stella, and it was just kind of fun. I think it did fold out. Yeah, there was Hillier and, I can't remember, Katie Hillier was definitely on it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, it's always really fun with her, you know, and you know the image is going to be very kind of poppy.
Yeah. When I said, what do you see, I actually meant very pragmatically what you see.
Oh,
so
what do I see looking at this now?
Looking this way?
Well, it's so funny to see pictures of me then because, you know, it's just amazing, obviously, but this was however long ago. And I can see it, I can feel it like I was there yesterday, but as I see it, it's great, it's fun. It was such a time then.
And who was the photographer?
I think it was...
Phil Pointer?
Yes. Pointer.
And what's he saying to you?
I don't know. Probably sexy or something. I don't know.
And was Phoebe and Stella, were they there at the same time, or was it dropped in
Yeah, no,
afterwards?
we were all on pulse. Oh, I remember Liz was there as well, Liz Collins, and she said afterwards, okay, who has the hardest job here? And they all said, Liberty, Liberty.
And it was a sort of, am I right in thinking that's your first major sort of, that's when, certainly the first time I remember seeing you as a model.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know, wasn't the face before pop?
Was it?
I think so, we'd have to look it up. I think so.
There was a moment when you first came on the scene. I'm going to go back and ask you sort of how you started. But I got the feeling that was the first time, and maybe it's the first time you were associating what Katie Grand does very well, is to say, these are the people that are in now.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
Katie, you know, is one of those stylists and one of those art directors, and however you want to call what Katie does. But she's one of the people that very much is decisive on what's fashionable and what isn't.
She is,
according
yeah.
to Katie. I mean, I
Absolutely, yeah.
disagree with her, but she was very good at being in a position and the ability to say, these are the people I think are good.
And she's tremendously loyal to those people.
Is
so,
she?
you know, she'll really push you if she believes in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was, I mean, she was definitely the wind under my wings.
Right.
Getting me up off the ground kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then she was really loyal to me and really still is.
And do you mean, when you say she was the wind under your wings, that she was that in a sort of social context, i.e. that she would promote you to other people, or she was like a sort of mentor that she'd say, yes, you can do it, and kind of give you the, almost like the sort of like a sports person coach?
Not really, but she would just book me a lot.
Right,
so
okay. Okay. I'm just trying to complicate the answer.
Yeah, so she, you know, she saw me in Vogue, which was my first shoot, and then I remember my first job with her was with Norbert Schroner, and it was for, what was it? Was it GQ Arena or no, Arena on Plus?
Yes, yes.
She was working there at the time, and I remember this picture we did. It was a sort of headshot with me with a teaspoon with honey like that, and and I knew that picture worked really well. And then we got on great, and then it was just, that was the start of bigger things.
Yeah.